All right, let's shift over to the NFL and talk about some contracts that have not gone down and some that have. Let's start off with Jauan Jennings wanting a contract for this upcoming season. And I guess the way that's reported is that Adam Schefter has said that he wants a new contract or he would like a trade. And he's got 1 year left on his contract, $7.5 million. This is a year after he got a contract extension when he was a restricted free agent. And I saw a lot of people yesterday be like, here we go again, the 49ers and them having contract issues. I don't see it that way. I really don't think it's that big of a deal, to be completely honest. This is not the top of the market type of deal. We're talking about Jauan Jennings, who's looking really for like a Cooper Kupp or a Jerry Jeudy contract. And both those guys, I wrote down here, basically Cooper Kupp got 3 for 45, so 15 a year, and Jerry Jeudy got 3 for 58. So you're not talking about guys that are making $30 million a year. In recent years, you had Brandon Ayuk making, top 5 in the league. You had Nick Bosa becoming the highest paid defensive player in all of football. Brock Purdy, when you pay the quarterback, you're going to pay him in the $50 million range annually. So those are big contracts. This, I don't think, is that big of a deal. Honestly, they should pay him. It's not that astronomical of an amount. 3 for 45, I think, is appropriate for what Jauan Jennings did for you last season. You could say that right now, going into this season, he's the number 1 wide receiver. You don't know when Brandon Ayuk's coming back. And it seems to me like the way that John Lynch talks, I don't think they're going to have him back after this season. I think they're going to move on from him. With all of the trade talk that was out there, I think that if they can't find anybody to take on his salary, they'll probably cut him next season. I think that they were unhappy with the negotiations, and they're unhappy with the amount of money they paid for him. And his attitude after the fact, when you saw that video of him kicking his shorts off when he had the wrong shorts on during a practice. So once you get Brandon Ayuk's money off the books, this is not that big of a deal. It's 3 for 45. So I know people are just, it's a narrative of like, oh, every year, every offseason, every training camp time, the Niners have these contract disputes. I don't think it should be that big of a deal. I think they should get this done. There's no excuse to have Jauan Jennings not at training camp. He's your number 1 option. You don't know when Brandon Ayuk's coming back. You got Ricky Pearsall. You don't know if DeMarcus Robinson's even going to play the first 4 weeks of the season with a suspension. That's probably going to happen with him. So, yeah, get it done. It's not that big of a contract.
It's just looking for something. I do agree with you, but just the big but here, Derek. What if there's another team out there who's willing to give him a fairly lofty one that the Niners aren't willing to pay him? Like he'd be okay with making the $7.5 million this year, but it's like, all right, well, I got this other team who's willing to take me. I'm going to ball out and I'm just going to go to them if they're willing to give me another contract. Like, I don't know. He could bet on himself, but I wonder if last season was the peak Jauan Jennings that we'll get, because he truly was the number 1 guy. Obviously Brandon Ayuk getting hurt, as you mentioned, and him returning this season. Ricky Pearsall starting off on the PUP list last year. I personally think that Ricky Pearsall is the number 1 receiver going into this year, and I think that's what the 49ers are planning on doing. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if they just kind of said, look, man, we can't pay you right now. We will. I mean, we can only give you a certain amount, but give us 1 more year, give us a time for the salary cap to go up, and then we can give you a deal in the offseason. I think they'll work it out. I just don't. Jauan Jennings doesn't strike me as a guy who's going to hold in and just mope the entire time he's at training camp. Like when Adam Schefter reported this, he cited sources saying that, he'd be there, but he'd be unhappy with his contract. I'm like, okay, but Jennings is still going to be a team guy. That's who he's always been. He's just asking for a little extra quiche. I think he is more valuable than $7.5 million. They're getting an absolute steal with that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that I'm with you. I don't think that Jauan Jennings is the type of guy to not show up to training camp. He might hold in, and that's just the price of doing business. But also, for a guy that did the post game interviews, and his attitude was, if he had a big game, like the game against the Rams at week 3, where he had 3 touchdowns, but they lost the game. And the post game, he was being asked, like, what'd you think about having your career defining game? And he was like, we still lost the game. Like, I'm not going to comment on, my performance when we lost the game. I'm a team first guy. So, I think that he has a team first mentality, but also he realizes I need to cash in. I got 1 year left. If I hurt myself, I'm only, on the books for $7.5 million. I need to get paid. So this is the price of, doing good business.
Yeah, but it is surprising that it's happening now. It's weird timing to have it a week before training camp.
That's the right time to do it, though. That's the right time to do it, though. That's when you know that you're not being, you're basically being neglected. Where I'm sure John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan were like, let's just see if we can get by this offseason without paying him. And he's like, no, you're not. You're going to pay me now. And they should. They should pay him now. So I don't think it's that big of a deal, especially when you see these other contracts that were handed out this last couple of days. What he's asking for, not that big, not huge. So if I was John Lynch, I would think big picture down the line, we're probably getting rid of Brandon Ayuk. So if my number 1 receiver is on the books for $15 million a year, I'm saving money. And then, you have to see with Ricky Pearsall, they may have to add a wide receiver down the line or see what they have in Jacob Cowing. But yeah, I don't put this contract dispute in the same category as everyone else these past few seasons. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
No, because he's also not like a top star.
Exactly.
This isn't Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. Like, he's great, but he also had 975 yards receiving and 6 touchdowns, and he was the number 1 receiver. Those are solid, high-end number 2 receiver stats. Those aren't 1 receiver stats. Just because he was first on the team. So I don't think he has, he has leverage, but I don't think he has so much where he could demand just this $20 to $25 million Jonathan Kuminga contract.